Hey friends, welcome back to the Gentle and Lowly Co podcast. I'm Addie Ott, and today on the podcast, we'll be talking about letting your life be a bridge. And I am so stoked for this conversation, guys. We have our friends Chris and Sarah on the podcast. So Chris and Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us. I'm
Yeah,
happy to be
it's good to
here.
be here.
Yay, I'm so excited. And for the friends who don't know who you are, and Kramer, we got to talk about Kramer too, your dog, but just share a little bit about what the season of life looks like for you and what you guys do.
Oh
Um,
man, that's a loaded question. So
I
we're
know.
Chris and Sarah. We're we're travel YouTubers, content creators, whatever else you want to call us. We travel in a truck around the world, and we have our dog Kramer with us, and then we make little movies and put them on YouTube.
yeah, so we've been doing that for about 6 years, but we work on the road and currently we are at home at our home base in Chattanooga, Tennessee. This is where we come back between travels, and we're sort of like in a weird season as we're talking to you right now, where we are transitioning from driving through Central America into our next adventure, which is Europe. So we'll
Yeah.
be in Europe in a few
Well, you
weeks.
just went right
I did. I
there.
mean, I just might as well go
You
ahead and
just
just say where we're
went
going.
straight there. That's like a big deal. If you like know who
It
Chris and
is.
Sarah are, it's like, oh my gosh, that's like the inside scoop. But I have like honestly just loved following you guys, and we'll probably get into this more, but I've always like thought about van lifing and always just like love YouTube and videos and kind of like the process videos. And you guys were one of the first people who like kind of came along, and I was like, I'm gonna follow what they're doing. This is fun.
Oh, no
So
way. Oh,
yeah.
thank you. You've stuck around. We feel like
Yeah.
we know you because we've talked on Instagram, like in our
Yeah.
DMs for so long. So
So
this
long.
is
It
fun to
feels
make this
like
happen.
real life friends, even
I
though
know.
Yeah.
it's Zoom. But one day we'll get the pups together and
We
maybe
will.
get to hang out. So
One
We
day. Yeah,
will. Let's
yeah.
do that.
yes, so much fun, and I just can't recommend all the all the content. I shouldn't say content, but really like the adventures you guys are doing and you invite us into. It's just a lot of fun and really good recommendations, especially even like in the US too. You guys have some like local adventures. So go follow them, go be their friends. They're awesome people. But we'll jump into music of the week. So for you guys, it might be different for each of you, but for you guys this week.
Oh, man. So I'll just go first. There's three things. Am I allowed to have three answers here? Because
Yes,
I
yeah,
feel like
this
I've
is
been
great.
this week
I
I've been
love it.
switching between three different things. So
Okay.
when I'm working, I've actually been listening to this app called Endel, and it's like these
Oh,
soundscapes. But it's actually
cool.
really cool. So it like helps you focus, and it's kind of like AI powered sound, but it's really
Yeah.
weird sounding. But it helps me focus. Like I am a little ADHD,
Good.
so I kind of go all over the place. So I've been using the Endel app to work, and then
Okay.
working out and driving in the car, we've actually been listening to like a playlist on Spotify. It's like greatest road trip hits, and it's like a lot of oldies. So that's been kind
Yeah.
of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the last year or so, Need to Breathe's latest album has been like my
Hmm.
go-to.
Hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
been like when I've just been hanging out, like I'll put that on.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good.
I mean, for me, I've been listening I like so when we make our videos for YouTube, we use this thing called Music Bed, and they use real
Mhm.
artists on there. And I have a habit of just listening to the artists on Music Bed, so I know if I can use the music in our videos. And so I've been listening to a lot of Ben Rector and a lot
Yes.
of the national parks right now because they're coming out with like new singles, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to use that in the video.
Are they
So
on tour together right now
I
too?
think they're on
Yeah, I
tour
think they're
together
Yeah,
too.
I
Yeah.
know they
yeah.
are. Yeah, because I've wanted to see the national parks live. I've never seen them before,
Yeah.
but I've been to
Same.
Ben Rector's stuff a couple times, and oh
Oh,
my
he's
God,
Yeah.
so fun.
big
He's so
fan.
fun live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, it's so good. That is so funny because I've like noticed, yeah, in the videos, I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, I know that like these are artists I love, or I'm like, I know
Yeah.
this song. This is cool. So
Yeah.
that's a really fun thing. I really love that. Well, it's not exactly like national parks, but I feel like they're kind of in the same like indie folk kind of hip. I don't know. Dave kind of explained it yesterday. They're like, well, I guess this is narrative, pop, folk, indie music. But I went to go see the Grey Havens on their Zion Caravan tour. It's so
The
fun.
Gray Havens. I don't even
But
know
I
you
this.
feel like we've
know who
heard a
they
couple
are.
of their
I
songs.
probably have, and I just don't know
So,
it. That's the problem with
yeah,
Spotify is I'll just like put it on shuffle or like
yeah.
Discover Weekly, and I have no idea who I'm listening
Hmm.
to
I
anymore.
know. I
Okay,
have to
the
take
Gray Havens.
screenshots. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes.
To be like, what did I listen to? Like, this is a good one, which was a lot of fun. But it
Yeah.
was so cool. Like, I've never been to a concert like this with so many different artists because usually it's like the opener and then it's the main person, which
Uh-huh.
that's just how it's always been done, which is not a bad
Right.
thing. But it was so cool because they had the Grey Haven, so Dave with the main guy, and then the band you supporting Lovekin, and his is again kind of they're all in the same kind of like indie Christian. John Mark Pantana, which I don't know if he's been on tour with like John Mark McMillan, but
Let's
I'm
not
like,
be
I
saying
don't
that.
know, but it's funny.
The
And
John Mark
then
tour.
the John Mark tour, John Mark
Yeah.
tour. That'd be really
Yeah.
fun. And then Antoine Bradford. And so like I know all of their names, but I know their songs more. And I'm like, oh my gosh, these are like
Mhm.
some of my favorite songs. So
Okay. What did you say
yeah,
that name was again? Gray Haven?
great. The Grey Havens.
The
Yeah.
I'll
Gray
have to check them
Havens.
out.
They
Okay.
have a
I may have to
lot of
DM you to remember
music, a
that.
lot of stuff.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool to like follow them over the years and things. But like when you have like those favorite songs by all these different artists, and you're like, oh my goodness, to hear these live with other people too. And again, it's just like a small church in Indiana. It's like they're like, can we call this indie? And the crowd was like, no. And I'm like, well, it's like indie suburb-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we all live in Indy, ish, which is kind
Yeah.
of funny, but it just was a really cool way that they like highlighted each person. You're just a bunch of friends getting together, like hanging out, playing music, and it was a
Mm.
great night. So
I'm gonna
it's so
look them up.
Yeah.
fun.
Thank you
I
for
know.
that.
Yeah, definitely look them up, but also like if, go support the artists, go to their concerts. It's even better than listening to it, just on
Yeah,
Spotify, which is good.
for sure.
Yeah. So a lot of fun, and I'm so excited. I think I'm gonna see like Ren Collective next week. So
Oh,
Oh,
they do
cool.
fun.
such
Very
a good
cool.
job too.
They
So
do.
yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
Oh,
But
jealous.
I know it's a lot of fun. But let's move into theme of the week though. What kind of have stood out for you guys this week? I know it might be, as you're getting just back home, so there might be a lot of big change, but what has been kind of the core theme of this week for you guys?
I, so maybe this is going to be a little cliche because it is Holy Week and it's
Yeah.
spring. And I feel like I go through the same cycle every year at this time of year, but like just the idea of he's making all things new because
Mhm.
spring like we've been out riding our bikes a lot this week and like everything just in a matter of like a week or so has just turned so green and there's just
Mhm.
life everywhere around and so that's sort of an idea I keep. I don't know, just biking and stuff yesterday. I was trying to slow down and just like notice the little details, like the little purple
Mhm.
flowers on the side of the trail and just like I don't know, it's does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
No, it
just the
does.
changing of the
absolutely.
seasons and how everything's a season, but the
Mhm.
spring is just like the season of hope for me.
Yeah.
Like I know they say Christmas is a
Yes.
season of hope, but for me, I just love like
Spring.
the
Mhm.
beginning of everything starting over.
Yeah. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's been more a, I'm kind of just in awe, like at our place in life right now. Like it's been the past few months. I mean, the last year have been a little difficult in some areas. It's been great, but then now that we're in this transition period of, of moving to a different adventure, like even the little thing of just watching our air tag on our truck float in the middle of the ocean, I'm like, I can't believe we get to do this. And like
Yeah.
this upcoming weekend, we're getting to take my parents to Montana and they've never been past the Mississippi, and it's like little like like that's a big deal,
Yeah.
and
It
but
is.
it's being able to do something like that. And so, I mean, a year ago we wouldn't have been able to do that, and so it's just like seeing the progress of our journey and like where we're at. And I don't know, I've just kind of been in awe of that this week. I think really just seeing the truck in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean is really kind of doing that for
Just
me.
all this hard
Yeah.
work has like led to these
Mhm.
things finally happening. And I think it's just like his faithfulness is there, even if it feels
Oh,
really difficult. And the last
yeah.
year has been really difficult, really rewarding at times, but really difficult. And then now getting to share it with Chris's family and even my dad just went to Panama with us. And it's the first time I've ever traveled
Right.
internationally with one of my parents.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And
It's cool.
just like all this hard work leading up to it is just kind of like everything's
Mm.
kind of come to fruition of getting to share it with other people. It's been really rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that is really awesome, and I can kind of relate similarly in a little way of like I have traveled a lot internationally, not a ton, but it's always a privilege wherever you get to go, and even my brother. So it's kind of like we have gone to go a lot of places, and it's like, oh, we want to invite our parents into that, but whenever we can go and like take them on a trip, or we can just go to a different state together, like to not lose that wonder and just like the joy that it is, and getting to see, I think, like another side of God's creation and His character is
Oh
so
yeah.
cool. And it's kind of
Mhm.
interesting, Sarah, you're saying like, oh, there's season, spring is around us and all the different things are kind of, coming up. And I love spring for that reason, especially after like a long winter. And
Yeah, right.
like we got snow, not like, I think it was maybe a couple weeks ago, but it's
Oh,
still like fluctuating between like 30 to 60 to 40. Like you just don't
Oh,
know what it is.
yeah. Right.
So I'm
I'm so
excited.
sorry.
Yeah, you're
Spring will be there
fine.
soon, I promise.
I know. I'm just like, well, because even today I'm like, wait, can I ride my bike outside? I don't think so. It's too overcast and too windy. But all that to say, like, I think it's cool where we can see like the physical season around us, but also like in our lives, like where the things that we're putting our hands to, like everything is kind of coming a culmination together, coming to fruition, like you're saying. And that can just be deeply encouraging and to not lose that sense of wonder of like the
Mm,
smallest things and to still like have a sensitive heart to that because I think there could, correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes when you travel, you can go to the opposite side and, maybe get calloused to some of the things
Very
that
true.
you just take it for granted. And it is just such a joy to be able to, you know,
mhm.
go on a road trip with a friend or your parent, or even, get on a plane and go somewhere and get to see a new side and, appreciate the culture and stuff. So I think
Yeah,
that's really cool
that's a really
and
good point.
really encouraging, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you said that because that's something we definitely have struggled with is like not getting, we want to keep seeing the wonder in the little places we
Yeah.
go. Like
Mhm.
we don't want to get so
Mhm.
used to it. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that is,
Mm.
yeah, really good
Yeah.
point.
And you can do that anywhere. I mean, it doesn't have to be like this big trip. I just think about like this week, just the ability to go. It's like a little park near my mom's house when I'm visiting her. And let's like, oh, let's just go for a walk before dinner, take Kodak, go for a little walk.
Yeah.
And everyone's out and we talked to some people and their kids just got engaged and they're taking photos. And then there's prom
Oh,
weekend. And it's like, this is just so fun getting to see everyone kind of being out and about after a long
mhm.
hibernation,
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That is such
everyone.
a good feeling.
So it's really nice. It's like, yay, we're all back and alive with the sun. So
We
it's kind of
survived.
fun. Yeah, we survived the winter and stuff, but I do love the seasons. I love the snow, love the winter, the slowness it can bring, but I guess I'm kind of feeling it on the other side where because it's, everything's kind of coming, together and it's like, oh, there's more things to do with the warmer weather. So that means it's easier just to fill your time up.
Mhm.
And I think if you are an achiever, am I not an overachiever, but just like a high achiever. You want to do things, you want to steward things well. It's just easy to like, fill up all the time and not leave any time
Mhm.
for margin. And you want to steward things well, but I think like as things are filling up in my calendar, it's like, okay, this is a season that might be a lot more work, and I'm grateful for that. But also on the flip side, I talked a little bit about this last week, but on the podcast with Tanner, where, May is coming up, and I've kind of just felt in my heart that I really need to set that month aside just because this right now is still a side thing. Gentle and Lowly Co. I love it so much, but just to be able to have a place where I come back to creating and just be able to create from an overflow. And so that's going to be really interesting doing this like large digital fast and like putting boundaries on my phone and like only, being online for my, full-time job. So it'll be really interesting, but like I'm really excited to kind of see the slower season while there's still more to do outside and you can like just, I don't know, be in like a slow season, like really not taking advantage to like go walk Kodak in the park, things like that,
Mhm.
and just be
Yeah.
present with people. So it's kind of like this, I don't know, I feel this tension like, okay, the rest is coming, but we're doing a lot of things right now to prepare for that, which is good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of fun. But yeah,
Love that.
I love it. So really, really fun. But I really want to talk about this for our main topic, letting our lives be a bridge because we kind of talked about a little bit what you guys do online. And I think if you show up online and you choose to share your life online, it can be really cool to build connections. And I've seen God work in so many ways where I'm like, oh, we were online friends and then we became friends in real life and we're just friends. Or even if you don't even meet,
Yep.
yeah. But I think there's this opportunity as believers to lean into the passions that we have where it's
Mhm.
not an accident that we all like love technology, like we like microphones or like we like cameras and like making things look nice. And it's like, wait, what could happen if we leaned into those and really just extended an invitation to be like, hey, I really love this thing. Like, you want to come along and learn with me? And then maybe as we build a relationship, we can, share a little bit more about what's on our hearts and the way that we see the world. So I want to zoom out a little bit and just share like an overview. You can be like a sped up overview of how this kind of all happened because I love like hearing backstories. It feels like a superhero's like, I don't know, like backstory. It's kind of cool,
Yeah.
but it's just kind of fun.
Oh gosh, I never know where to begin.
I mean,
There's a lot of time. Yeah.
there's a long time. Yeah, it's a long time coming. But I mean, we got married and we went to Thailand for our honeymoon. We started filming there, but
Yeah.
I think it even goes further back than that. Before we even met, we
yeah,
both like he was already doing
Yeah.
video and graphic
yeah,
design, and I was
Okay, so
doing
that's
photography and
interesting.
writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we met biking across America, which makes it sound really hardcore. And we say that all the time. We're like, yeah, it makes it sound really cool, but we were so
That's
not
so
like super
cool.
athletic.
yeah, yeah,
But we did learn a lot on that trip of like combining passions with like, ministry give back. That was sort of the point of the
yeah,
trip. And then we also got to
Yeah.
see America from back roads, which has definitely played a part in like
Mhm.
how we travel and traveling slower and getting to know people in these
yeah.
places we never would get to visit. And
Ah,
We
then
got
it
to see
just
each other like at our highs and at
highs
our
and
lows.
lows.
mm,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. There's not a
that's
lot that
true.
you can hide when you're living in spandex on a bike
yeah,
for 2 months.
no, yeah, yeah,
That's so fair.
It's real
That's
vulnerable real
hilarious.
fast.
Yeah, real fast.
But
You're like, we're friends, we're bonding. Yeah.
oh yeah,
yeah,
no, it didn't take long.
Yeah.
But then it's just sort of like, well, we dated for a year or two and then got married. And like he said, we went to Thailand, and that was really the first chance we got to like work abroad as like digital
Yeah.
nomads. Like Chris already owned his own business. I was working remotely
Mm-hmm.
for a company at the time. And it was the first time we'd ever gotten to do like our passions together. Like we actually did a photography project and was like working with the same nonprofit we biked for,
Yeah.
to like document some of their give back projects in like Thailand, Burma. So
yeah,
we
Mm-hmm.
really loved getting to work together in a creative capacity. And then we returned to Seattle for another year and a half and decided we wanted to travel more.
yeah. And so, and Sarah was sort of one of the first people because, I've been a freelancer for so long and none of my clients, when I started out, lived in the same state, let alone city that I was in. And Sarah was like, you could literally work from anywhere, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I don't have to stay in this apartment, in
Yeah.
North Carolina or wherever, or Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of the mindset
Mm-hmm.
shifted. And then, like Sarah said, we moved to Seattle, lived there for a little bit, and then rent started getting higher and higher and higher. And we're like, you know what? For the amount of money that we're paying for rent right now, we could probably buy a van. And because she saw this photo on Instagram and she was
I
like,
was influenced.
yeah, she was
Yes,
very
you're
influenced. And she
influenced.
was like, would you ever live in a van? And I'm like, I mean, maybe. Like, I don't know. And so we bought a van and our families thought that we fell on hard times. We're like, no, this was on purpose. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
but this was like early in van life to where people didn't
Right.
really know what it was. Like, I
That's
mean, we
fair.
were we were not the trendsetters by any means, but we were definitely like in that early wave of
Hmm.
like the
mhm,
trend. It was like
Yeah.
pre-COVID kind of thing. So
yeah,
I
people thought
agree.
we had lost our minds.
Yeah,
All of
you're
our
like,
friends are
you're
having
gonna
their
do
first
what
and
now?
second kids.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, where
yeah,
does your mail go? Like,
Right? Oh my
exactly.
yeah.
gosh. The
Yeah.
number of
Exactly.
times we've answered that question.
Yeah,
But
where's
Oh
the
my
yeah.
mail? How
gosh.
do you get
Yeah.
Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Where's the
Yep.
bathroom? All this. So yeah,
That's sort of like the, I guess the initial like how we got started with all of this.
yeah,
It really has been like a natural progression. Like I don't
Mhm.
want to make it sound like there hasn't been a ton of work because there has.
Yeah.
And there has been a lot of like planning, even though half the time our plans just completely do not go the way we anticipate. I mean, that's just life. But
Yeah.
um yeah,
yeah,
it really has just sort of been this organic growth of like, well,
Mm.
we feel like this season's ended and we'll go on to this next
Right.
thing. We just kind of keep following it as we feel led and
yeah.
somehow it always works out.
And we started posting online and people started following along. Our first video happened at Disney World at the campground. We didn't realize that that video itself went viral and a lot of people shared it and watched
Mhm.
it. But it was filmed at Fort Wilderness in Orlando at Disney World. And the reason we started filming was because this older couple,
Who we're still friends with.
yeah, we're still friends with
Love
they
that.
came up with
Yeah.
their GoPro and a dog. And I was like, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, our dog's got a YouTube channel and we just follow him on his adventures. And after they left, I looked at Sarah and I'm like, if they have a YouTube channel, we need to have a YouTube channel. And that's
We
how,
filmed our first video the next day. He
yeah,
finally convinced me. He's
Wow.
like, if that dog can do YouTube, you can do
Yeah.
YouTube.
If the dog can do YouTube, I mean, that's a good encouragement for anyone. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. It's like so wild, but just because, the kind of behind the scenes of creating, you're trying to, hone in your craft as in like the early years. And then you're like, wait, could I actually do this? Like, could I do something with this and like actually, you know, have a living with that where it's just like a deep overflow and you're just excited to create because if you're a creative, you're like, I want to create something. You want to give back to the world in a meaningful way. And I think you guys do that so well by extending invitations just for people to come, follow you along on the journey, whatever that looks like. And kind of speaking of that, where you guys talked about like slowing down and like traveling just slowly, I think what's the term you guys know where you like go overseas and it's like, I guess it's just slow travel, but like people like go there for a month. I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't know. There's like some kind of buzzword now, which is cool. But um
Yeah.
I forget totally what it is, but I love that approach and it makes me think of like studying abroad and got to be in
Mm.
France for 2 months and my friends
Oh,
were
Yeah.
wow.
like, Addie, like I'm ready to go home. I'm like, wait, what? Like I could stay a couple
Yeah.
more weeks, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so fun just because you get to like know the people. But talking about that of like slowing down, being intentional and really getting to know the people around you, how do you like do that intentionally just to seek invitations, just for others into your work and your everyday life wherever you guys are?
Man, it's so hard internationally just when we don't speak the language. We've
That's
been
fair. Yeah.
in Central America a lot, but I mean, there have been opportunities to, really get to know people and make friendships at the campgrounds. There's people from all over the world who,
Mhm.
I mean, all these Europeans speak English, and half the time it is Europeans at the campground. So we've made a lot of really cool friends along the road, but it does take putting yourself out of your comfort zone and even trying to talk to locals at the coffee shops. Like we'll stay in like a town for, I don't know, we were in Antigua for 2 weeks and like we got to know the guy who ran the campground pretty well, like had little inside jokes with him. And then we got to know kind of the baristas down the street. And it's just like,
Hmm.
it does take putting yourself out there, especially when you're not good at foreign languages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think the way that we travel, we travel via truck right now, it's
Hmm.
overlanding and we're going like, so it is naturally slower than flying into a place. And when we
Sure.
fly into a place, like for instance, we're going, like we've been to Montana several times. We have friends that live up there, but this upcoming trip, it's only 4 days. And like when you only have a like 4 days and you have
Mhm.
schedules, like it's really hard to make natural connections via
Yeah.
that way because you haven't left margin in your life
Mhm.
to allow that to happen. And that's
Mhm.
sometimes that just happens,
Yeah.
like for
Yeah.
this trip that's what's going to happen.
Hmm.
But for us, like when we normally travel, it is slow and like we don't jam pack our entire day trying to see
Mhm.
everything. Like it's just naturally being where people shop at or where they hang out at or yeah, just and so it kind of we've allowed enough margin for things to happen to where we could say yes or no to. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. I was just thinking that like we know that not everybody can afford the time to travel slowly like we can. Like we know that
Right.
we're really
Hmm.
blessed in the sense that like we have jobs that allow us to travel and we have even before we were content creators, like we were working remotely and that's a huge blessing and then we don't want to take it for granted. But I also
Hmm.
don't want to shame other people if they only get, 2 weeks
Hmm.
vacation a year and one of
Yeah.
those weeks is
Yeah.
used for the holidays and then another week they actually go on
Hmm.
vacation. Like not everybody can travel in that way, but I would encourage people who do get to travel, no matter how you do it, like allow a little bit of time to like maybe see how the locals live. Like places
Yeah.
like I don't know, public markets like in Central
Mm.
America. Like that's a really great glimpse of everyday life for people. You may
Mhm.
not have, it doesn't
Cool.
take a lot of time, but you get to see like how people interact with their own community and just like seek
Yeah.
out those little authentic moments
Yeah.
here and
Or
there.
even going to like parks, maybe you're in
Yeah.
the States and you're doing
Yeah.
a domestic travel and
It's true.
what is the town that we always get stuck at in Colorado?
Oh, Grand Junction,
Yeah,
Colorado.
Grand
Oh,
Junction, Colorado.
yeah.
Would have never been there
Yeah.
in my entire life
We've been
with
to Grand Junction more times than I can remember
and
now. I
That's
have
but
no
just
idea why.
hilarious. But
but
that's
we'll
it.
go
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, we'll go to the park. They have this
Sounds
really nice
cool.
walking trail and like you can just kind
Yeah.
of like that's where all the locals go and you just kind of hang
Mhm.
out there and
And
um
Kramer's a great, I'm sure you know this
Yeah.
with your dog too, but Kramer is a great conversation starter. Like people
Yes.
walk
That's what
up,
I was
like
thinking.
internationally,
Hmm.
it is like this great, it breaks down
it
barriers
does.
so quickly,
So
especially with like
fast.
kids. Like they'll come
Yeah.
over and then their parents will come over and
Yeah.
it really has allowed some cool
Hmm.
opportunities.
It
Just
really,
that one
yeah,
crazy
the
dog.
dog. And then on the other end of the spectrum, the camera, because we'll film
Mm.
our
Right.
experience, and the
Yeah.
camera does allow for some of that to happen. And but
Hmm.
then on the opposite end, people see the camera and they
And they,
stiffen
Freeze.
up and they
yeah,
freeze. And
they
so you've
bolt.
got to,
Yeah.
yeah, they
Yeah.
bolt. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you've
Hmm.
got to know when to like put the camera down and like
Hmm.
be there and so
Yeah.
Yeah.
People first, then camera.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
That's hard.
that tension, navigating that is really hard, where again, it's like you just want to share what you're doing out of an excitement, but
Hmm.
the reminder of like, oh, not everyone wants to do that. It's like, how can we love
Yeah,
people well by
Yeah.
just reading
exactly.
body language, kind of knowing, and even just the reminder of like, okay, is this, a time to record or to maybe just be
Right.
Yeah,
present and maybe just talk with someone over tacos? Like, I don't know,
yeah,
No,
or
for
over coffee
sure.
and stuff.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's really good. And they're just really practical kind of things and not overcomplicating it. I was thinking about just like looking up dog parks. Like I remember maybe that was a couple years ago when I took Kodak on like one of our longer kind of road trips because he was still a puppy. So I was like, well, we're gonna need more potty breaks probably for him. So just looking him up and I'm like, oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. And there always wasn't like a ton of people there, but you just never know. And you just kind of get to see a different side of, I guess, even like a state or like a county rather than just the
Mhm.
interstate too, which is kind
For
of cool.
Yeah,
sure.
And just,
Yeah.
yeah,
waving to people, be nice to them. But I think,
yeah,
yeah, even visiting my friend in like Michigan, it's like, oh, you just like strike up a conversation, like, oh yeah, I don't live here, but what's your dog's name? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
you never know. So
No,
I
you
Exactly.
think
never
that's
know. And like, what's the worst thing that would happen?
yeah,
Like
that too.
just, yeah, they say no or they walk away. I mean, that's
Mhm.
the worst thing. But all right. Yeah.
We're
Lesson
like,
learned.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's good. And I think it's like, again, sometimes maybe when I was younger, I would have thought, oh, this like sounds so hard. But I think the more reps you do, because I just
Mhm.
think about, okay, maybe you might not be there yet, even though now it kind of feels like a second nature or just like a reflex. Be like, oh, let me just talk to this person. But just like give yourself grace with like just trying to, I don't know, even if you're on vacation and you're at like a national park and you see a family who like is taking a photo, be like, hey, I, you have your camera. They kind of know that you're like legit. Be like, hey, I'd love to take your photo. There's even moments for that. And it's just like, how can we make someone's day by doing like the simplest gesture or just like being a kind person or just, just showing up with some service and just like, oh, we're all just trying to rest, and,
Yeah.
take a breather. So I think that's really good. And it's a lot easier than we kind of overcomplicate it to be. But
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
kind of want to shift into this conversation a little bit and ask about more community because when you guys talked about, doing van life and, people were like, wait, you're doing what now? Like there's a lot of reactions, from your
Yeah.
community. But especially kind of more specifically to us with what we believe, being connected to a local church. I've had this conversation with my friends of like, I want to go do van life or maybe for a season, but I've always come back to this tension of wanting to still be connected and do life with people, especially with the people who know you so well. But like, how does that even like shape your Sundays? And like, just how do you navigate that tension by staying connected and just like continuing your walk with Jesus in that way? And, but also like doing what you feel called to do and, being sent into the world.
I mean, that's such a hard question, and I don't think
Mhm.
that's something we've perfected yet. But we have been really blessed in that a lot of our best friends, I don't want to say all of our best friends, but a lot of our best friends
Yeah.
are fellow believers. And
Yeah.
so there's that like whole other level of that you're able to get deeper with them than you
Mhm.
can with some friends who maybe aren't believers.
Uh,
And our friends are really cool in that they're scattered all over the country. And that's kind
mhm.
of a blessing. And
Yeah.
I don't want to say a curse, but like it's like a good and a
Yeah.
bad thing,
It's a
right? Simultaneous.
two-folded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
twofold. That's a
Yeah.
better way of
That's
saying it.
fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So like when we travel, I don't think we're ever more than an hour's drive or 2 hours drive from somebody we know pretty well in the country. Like we
That's cool.
always have a friend to call up and be like, hey, let's grab coffee. And it's really fun to get to connect with these different friends around the world when we're traveling. But that also makes being home a little bit harder because our
Yeah.
closest friends are in Colorado and Oregon and
Hmm.
Washington and all these other places. But
Yeah.
it does
Yeah.
teach us to be
Mhm.
intentional, and church looks a little bit different for
Yeah.
us.
And I
Yeah.
feel like it's been I feel like it being in Tennessee, we're really close to Nashville, and
Mhm.
Nashville is
Yeah.
home to all these musicians that
Yeah.
travel all over. And then when they
Mhm.
come back home, they're typically not home on a Sunday. They're typically home on a
Yeah.
Tuesday or a Wednesday or whatever. And so for them, life looks a little different than what it looks for somebody in Kansas
Mhm.
or Utah or wherever.
Right.
So for us, I feel like Tennessee and Chattanooga, there is still this understanding of like, oh, they're nomadic, and so
Right.
that people understand, hey, they're gone for months at a time, whatever.
Mhm.
But when they come back, it's that veil kind of drops, and it also comes down to reps too. It comes
Yeah.
down to like, hey, you've got to start that, and then when you come back, you'll pick back up, and then when you leave, it'll happen again, and so you keep going back and
Mhm.
forth. And now I feel like now we have a good support system to where,
People understand it.
yeah,
But
people
there
understand.
early on, there was definitely like, we went from being plugged in pretty tightly to a church in Seattle, and we're still really good friends with some of the people there.
Yeah.
But there's that like, you went from being plugged into this church to traveling and being in a different city every single Sunday. And we started out fan life by trying to go to different churches every week. And like, if I'm being
Yeah.
totally honest, that just did not
That
work.
was,
It
We
didn't
yeah.
gave that
work.
like 2 months of trying, and it just like
Yeah.
it ended up with like Kramer hopping out of the van in downtown
Oh my
Atlanta one time
gosh.
and like running around the
Oh my
church parking
gosh.
lot. It
Yeah.
was
That's
chaos.
Like,
stressful.
and the poor guy like
Yeah.
directing traffic
It's
for the church, nobody taught him what to do if a dog jumps out of the
I
car.
mean,
I
no,
you
felt,
don't
you
yeah,
expect
don't.
that. Yeah.
No,
You
it's
don't.
and yeah,
hard.
Oh
And
my
I think there
gosh.
was so much guilt early
Mm-hmm.
on of like,
Mm-hmm.
for myself, I was self-inflicting guilt,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
of I'm not in church on Sunday morning. People are going to judge us. But then like,
Mm-hmm.
church now looks like going hiking with our friends in Colorado on a Sunday and like, or even a Thursday, maybe that's our Sabbath that week. Or,
Yeah.
it looks like a bunch of different things, and being okay with that and learning that like church doesn't
Mhm.
have to look like the typical four-walled building where I'm volunteering in the nursery and, helping clean
Right.
up after church. Like that's all good and
Mm-hmm.
that's great, but that's really not where our season of life is right now. And
hmm
um, it's very much like getting to know the person who's sitting across the table for us at a food hall somewhere, or I don't know. It looks a little bit different
yeah.
every day.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think you'd be surprised at how you will think that you're the only one out there doing that, and then you'll meet somebody
Yeah. That's
very,
so.
very similar, and
Mm.
you're not the only one. And so there are, maybe this season of life, you are at your house and you're going to the same church and you have that rhythm and routine, and that is pure and that is great. But, your other season could be the nomadic season where
Yeah.
you're kind of, well, like it looks different, and that's okay. I mean, there's plenty of people that we know who like are, I don't want to call them RV ministers, but like that's kind of what they are. They live in an RV
Yeah.
and they travel to different campgrounds,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah,
Your
so it just,
community's wherever you park that week.
yeah.
But on my first bike tour across the country, I had some of my
Mm-hmm.
best conversations ever on a bike seat, like the middle of
Mm-hmm.
nowhere. But one of
Yeah.
the girls on my bike tour, she was just talking to me, and she was the first person who like opened my eyes to church doesn't have to look like. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, church wasn't traditionally showing up on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. It's not, it's more about the community. It's more about like experiencing God and where do you feel closest to God? And she was explaining to me that she felt closest rock climbing. Like she loved living in Colorado, and she
Cool.
just was like, rock climbing was like where she felt like God spoke to her really well. And
Mm-hmm.
that was just her chance to like, you know, get to
Yeah.
be with him. And ever since
Yeah.
then, I've been like, where do I feel closest? And I actually love being on my bike, or I love being
Mm-hmm.
outdoors. And even driving down the road with Chris, like I feel like my
Yeah.
observations of life and God in general are just a lot clearer when
Yeah.
we
And
slow down.
Mm-hmm.
and maybe this is a tangent, but I feel like traveling the way that we do, it puts you into this situation where I don't want to say you feel desperate, but
Mm-hmm.
you're like you're hungry for connection. Like you just want
Right.
to meet somebody and
Yeah.
talk to somebody. And so that
Yeah.
whole, how like you go to a church or you go somewhere and it's like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
I have to go here for 5 weeks and then I'm finally going to meet somebody or get connected. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
that whole like
Yeah.
for us, you just kind of like cut through the fluff and be like, hey, are we
Right.
going to be friends or
Right.
not?
Or
Like, let's
not.
just do
See
this.
you for
Yeah.
2 weeks. Let's
Yes.
Yeah.
make this
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So,
Like let's actually establish the friendship now. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Not this back and forth thing.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes so much sense. And as you guys talking, like I think it's encouraging. Like I'm deeply encouraged by that because, especially if you just grew up very traditionally, it's like, oh, it has to look this certain way. But I think about like, and maybe I'm wrong, but it feels very missionary, kind of like that, where even if you had people like, oh, the missionaries come and they do a conference or they come and give an update. And again,
Mhm.
sometimes we can have this, I don't know, emphasis or this idea that it has to be beyond, it has to be international and outside of our country. But I just think like, there's so many things, of like even just talking to our neighbors and like that's how we live every day on purpose. But why does that, how this almost looks even more intentional by being going and being sent and doing that. And so I think just navigating that flow, I think you're right, this Sarah, that even though you guys have been doing this a long time, there's probably you're always going to have that tension, of how that kind of is. But I do think that's cool where you just get to make friends, wherever you are, and just giving grace though to the friends who, are living in their season and are being planted too.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
kind of even my friends know it's kind of not an ongoing joke, but it's like, wait, are you home or are you in Indy, like visiting
Right.
family?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
that's kind of like the two different, I don't know, bubbles of community I'm kind of in. But for me, it's like I have this privilege to work remotely and to spend this quality time with my parents and like my whole family. My brother's here, my step siblings are here, and my soon-to-be sister-in-law. Like I like prayed for days like this where I'm like, okay, I love the work I get to do in my full-time job, but I'm not necessarily bound to an office. Like I go
Hmm.
on site, visit, do what I need to do, but I get to like go get lunch with my mom rather than, eating it, I don't know, outside at a park, which is great, totally great.
Right.
But I get to share that relational connection. So it just kind of, I guess it kind of depends on your priorities for a different season and being
Hmm.
like, hey, I want to make plans with you, but it might be in 2 weeks when I'm back in town. And like that's
Hmm.
okay. Or maybe
Yeah.
6 months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
definitely does like take time to build those friendships. Like I think we
Yeah,
touched on that a
that's
little
fair.
bit, but yeah, it really does. And also still like making sure that we're there for the friends when they don't travel is
Right.
really
Hmm.
Hmm.
it's something I'm working on. Like I have
Hmm.
friends who have 2 and 3 kids, and I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes they're better at getting in touch with me than I am getting in touch with them.
Mm,
And there's that like I'm really working on trying to be intentional about like making that side of the community happen too. Make not
yeah.
just that they're there for me when I'm traveling, but like that I'm there for them when they're at home. So
Right.
Hmm.
it takes time, but like when those friendships are there, like man, they're good. They
Hmm.
really are.
Yeah. And I love that you guys even said that your friends are, some of your best friends are all around. And so you can just meet and grab coffee with them or whatever. And kind of one of my closest friends are in North Carolina and they're like, I'm like, if I just show up on your doorstep, they're like, yeah, we won't be surprised. You're just like passing through or
Yeah.
you need a place to go. And like, they're just kind of expecting like Addie will be that friend, of like if she
Yep.
gets stranded at an airport and we need to go pick her up or something like that.
Yeah.
So you just have like that deep connection. And again, I think the encouragement then for our friends listening is like it will take that time, but when you find those people, like, just be with them in all the different seasons of friendship, the good
Hmm.
ones and the hard, and you'll see just a deeper bond, and that like just it's so much more sweeter, I think, with time, because a lot of my friends are gonna come up like on 10 years. And I'm like, man, what a gift. Like you got to see me as like really kind of, just a young freshman, just figuring out life. And now we get to like see each other in the things that God's called us to and how we're just still working that out. So I think that's cool to the reminder to change with your friends and to grow with them wherever they are. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I guess kind of shifting gears a little bit into more of like the device section because you guys have been doing this a long time. So, there's a lot of logistics, a lot of different things. And again, kind of that, disclaimer when you tell your friends or family, you're like, you're gonna do what? Okay, so if someone like is really like wanting to do this, or just like what has been like your best piece of advice when it just comes to living a life of travel combined with like this digital documentation that is very unique and not very rare. But I know there's a lot of friends who are creative who kind of, are friends in this conversation as well.
I'd say don't be afraid to take a calculated risk. We like that term because
Mhm.
we're not the kind of people who grew up with like this giant safety net of finances or connections to where like we had great families, but we grew up like super middle class. Like,
Mhm.
so we can't make these like crazy risks, take these crazy
Yeah,
risks financially, like just
yeah,
quitting our jobs and traveling the world for 2 years. Like
Yeah.
that's never been something we could do. But
yeah.
we take incrementally larger steps and risks that we know that like we still have a safety net to fall back on.
Mhm.
And taking those risks and putting ourselves out of our comfort zones
Yeah,
have allowed us to do some really cool things. So like don't be
Mhm.
afraid. Like that's the one lesson I'm always coming back to of like um yeah, just pray about it, but
yeah.
it's okay to step out and do something that's not traditional.
And it's okay
Mhm.
to like
Right.
try it out and not like it. Like
Oh, that's
Yeah,
it's
good. Yeah.
so like it's okay like
sure.
go if you're really like hankering for some van life and you're like I really just want to do this. I think we would encourage you to rent a van and it will
Mhm.
be more expensive to do that, but
Mhm.
it'll be far cheaper to do that than you paying for a new van and being stuck within this van for a year or two and you're like, I absolutely hate this. I don't want to do this
We
anymore.
see that happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
Yeah.
see that happen
I
all the
can
It's
time.
okay to
imagine.
change your mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's okay. I think, and our friend Jackie says that all the time.
Yeah. She says
Everything
Mhm.
is
everything's changeable.
everything is changeable.
That's
And I love
good.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay to say no
Hmm.
and like, I don't like this and just pivot. Like, don't be afraid to
Yeah,
pivot.
yeah,
It's true.
Yeah.
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the tendency is when we get older, we don't want to try new things, or we're a little fearful. Like we're just like kind of pump the brakes immediately, almost like a kid learning to ride your bike and the back brakes, you just like immediately like skirt.
Yeah.
Because you're like, wait a minute, that's unknown territory. But I think there's such a cool side of God's character when we step into something new with him, even if we don't like it. But I've seen on the other side of like just writing, I'm like, I've seen this process of like, I get to see so much more of who God is and like be more attentive to his voice, where I didn't even think that was something I'd enjoy. Even though it's a solo activity, it is so fun to see how the process unfolds. And so I just feel like that encouragement of like, yeah, you might not like camping, but maybe van life, if, all of
Mhm.
the things are there, but you just never know. And to continue to be curious and to try new things, because it is hard when we just get into our routines and things, which aren't bad.
Mhm.
But I just think, man, what if there's this gift that God wants to invite us into that we don't even know, but it's exactly something that he's like, oh, you light up when you do this. So
Yeah.
it's so
Can
good.
I can I add one more thing here? I think you touched on it earlier
Yeah.
about um you talked on it just now too about like it gets harder to try new things as you get older. And we might like I said, my dad just traveled to Panama with us last week,
Yeah.
and that was my first international trip with him ever. In fact, my parents both just got their first passports like a month ago. Chris's
Yeah.
parents have never traveled
Mhm.
him over the Mississippi. They're going with us this
Yeah.
week to go to
Mhm.
Montana. Like it's not too late. I don't know what your
Mm,
audience demographic is in your podcast,
yeah.
but
That's good.
it's never too late. Like our parents are in their 60s and 70s and
Mm,
50s. I mean, our parents are all over the spectrum of
Yeah.
age, but it's
yeah.
not too late. And to watch that
Yeah.
excitement and that
Hmm.
experience and watching, like, my mom's a very fearful person, and watching her put those fears aside in order to
Yeah.
experience something that she's interested in, to find something new,
Mm,
is
that's
really
Yeah.
so
cool. So,
good.
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's I don't know, it's something that for us, like you talked about us getting jaded towards travel or getting, not jaded, but getting used to
Yeah.
like the travel side of it. And I think for us, a way to combat that is inviting people along
Yeah.
and
Mm,
watching their reactions to what they're
then light up.
experiencing.
Yeah.
Totally different
Because
Oh, that's
experience.
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because
Mhm.
even like Sarah's dad in Panama, just seeing like it's McDonald's, but seeing a McDonald's in a different country is like, what the
It's
heck?
so
Like this is
fun.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
It's so cool.
we had just been to Panama like 3 weeks earlier. We had to fly back to Panama after it. Long story. But
Yeah.
anyway, we had just been there. And then we took my dad to places that we had already been. And then that just like in a matter of 3 weeks' time,
Mhm.
it was a totally different experience because I was getting to see it through the
Yeah.
enthusiasm of his eyes and somewhere
Mhm.
he'd always wanted to go. So, yeah, I'd say
So cool.
go for it. Don't let age
Mhm.
hold you back if that's a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's so relatable. And some of our friends are, more along my age or younger, but, we all have our parents, and inviting them into those adventures. And, that's a big thing for me right now in a season where I want to make those memories with them. And they're on the older side of like, okay, never having a passport, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
can we get that for your birthday or like for Christmas? Like,
Yeah.
can we
Yeah.
make that a thing? And like taking more of these experiential gifts, where you
Mhm.
make those memories. So even for my mom's birthday tomorrow, we're gonna spend the day in Franklin, Tennessee, and just like
Oh,
go for a road
fun.
trip. And I'm like, those are kind of the things when I look back over on the year where it's not about doing more, but it's about maybe doing more together in that quality time. It's like, a good book is a great gift. Of course, I love books, but those memories, you get to hold those forever, and they are truly priceless. So I
Mm,
think that's
Yeah.
really
exactly.
encouraging. Yeah. And a good mindset, all of the things outside kind of come to life, all the exciting things we can do, but to slow down and, be present with the people we love is so good. Inviting them into that process of wherever we travel. I think that's really fun. Even if it's for a walk or for a bike ride or for a trip out of state. I think it's cool.
For sure.
Yeah. Love my dog, and everyone knows that. He's like on the podcast cover, which is kind of fun. And you guys have Kramer, which again is such a good conversation starter. But traveling with your dog has been, I know there's so many resources you guys have, which has been so helpful to me to think about that. But what has been one of like your favorite memories, with Kramer as you just traveled around the world with him?
Oh gosh.
I think my favorite memory with Kramer is we were in
I knew
Korea.
that's where you're going.
We were in Korea, and I love the story because it was just so absurd that it happened. But I went inside this night market to get B-roll shots of like food being made and all this, and
Mhm.
Sarah was outside, and a gentleman walked up to her.
No.
Oh, you want me to tell a story?
Yeah,
You're a
yeah.
better storyteller than me. But yeah, this older gentleman, he was probably 80 something or 90 something. I mean, he was older, and
Mhm.
he handed Kramer this Korean currency, and it was about equivalent of like $5 US, and he put it in Kramer's mouth for him to eat, and then started clapping. I was like, okay, bye, and said bye in Korean, and then walked away. I was like, no, 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 take your money. I thought the guy thought I was homeless. And so I kept trying to give it back, and he's like, no, no. And he just insisted on walking on. Well, we put this in a video and like just a little confused, like, I don't know
Mhm.
why this man just gave me this money. I felt really
Yeah.
bad. I thought I took somebody's money, hard earned money, because they thought I
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
homeless. I don't know.
We just didn't
Yeah. Yeah.
understand. Yeah.
But anyway, that video ended up doing really well and actually went viral in Korea. People started sharing the story of Kramer. And so like there was this screenshot that was all over like Korean news and stuff.
MSN Korea and all
And
that.
like
Yeah.
all their local news stations and stuff of like they called him dog baby. And so people apparently the story goes like in Korea, it's tradition since the
Mhm.
war where like grandparent age, older people give children they call it pocket money to go buy a treat or a
Yeah.
toy or something like
Yeah.
that. And so they said Kramer was so cute and so beautiful. He was my baby, and they wanted him to go get a nice toy. So
Yeah.
they
So cute.
Korea
So that,
calls him dog baby.
yeah. So he's known as Dog Baby in Korea. That's one of my
Dog
favorite
baby.
stories of Korea or of Kramer. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Kramer
crazy dog.
Korea. That's, I mean,
Yeah,
that's like so fitting. Oh my gosh,
it
the
is.
in there. But what a wild, like that's just like so wild because if you're just a normal dog owner, you're like, how would that ever come about? And
Yep.
I think that's so cool that you just continue to take him along for the journey, and now you're like all of these adventures with him, and he has
Yeah.
a full life for sure.
He has no idea,
Yeah.
but we enjoy
He
having him
doesn't
there.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's literally
he's
the
just
only
so
reason
happy
people
though.
watch us. So people love Kramer.
So
So
funny. But I love that. I'm gonna, yeah, go look at all the news things and, dog baby. That is so funny and
Crazy
really,
dog.
really amazing and just so cool. Like you just get to learn, different about people wherever you go. That's so
Yeah.
fun. Okay. So for our final thoughts, how are you guys both actively carrying the gentle love of Jesus wherever you go?
I think, oh, it's so hard to articulate, but I think just inviting people in, continuing to
Mhm.
open up our lives and our stories, which is really hard for me sometimes as an introvert, but just inviting them on and building those relationships, even if it's virtually, like with you and getting to
Yeah.
know you through Instagram messages for years, like building those relationships is, you know,
Mhm.
it's sort of the long game,
yeah.
to
And
share
be
that love.
and being patient, being,
Mhm.
it sometimes it can be frustrating to deal with people who and
Mhm.
you're like, why don't you understand it? Why are you acting this way? And that's because they're at a different stage of life than you
Mhm.
are, and vice versa. And so I think for me it's been like being
Mhm.
patient, like trying not to get mad at the people driving in Chattanooga, or
Yeah.
or Panama or
Real.
whatever, like
Yeah.
just showing that empathy of like, okay, they're in a different place than I am right now. And I,
Mm.
yeah. So
Hmm. Yeah, just being aware of that. I mean, that's so real. And I live, in the country, the back roads, but it's like, oh, when I go to the city, I'm like, okay, can we go faster? Sometimes I'm
Right.
just like,
Got places
but
to be.
it's just our humanness, and it's like,
yeah.
we all have those things, and I think those are the moments when we're going through our days. The Lord's like, okay, how can you show my love today? Like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe let this person in, maybe slow down. There's all those things, but inviting people in. And I do think like that's honestly something that's always on my heart of showing up online of like always wanting to be that encouraging friend to be like, hey, whatever your day looks like, whether it's staying home with your kids or, I don't know, even going to the park or going to your work, just how can I encourage you in that? And so I think you guys do that really well with being able to show people that there's more good in the world wherever you go and wherever you travel. And that there is beauty all around. And I think that's a really encouraging thing. And you get to invite people into that. So really, really cool. Yeah.
Thank you, Addie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that.
Yeah, of course. I have loved following you guys along, but also just like I've already felt like we were friends before, but now
I
like
know.
we're even officially more
We're
friends.
officially friends now. Yeah.
Officially, which
We'll
is
make it
so
real life
fun.
friends too one
Yeah.
day.
Yes,
Just
I know
don't
we
drive
will.
slow in front of me.
I know, now I know, but we can go go-karting. How about
That's
that?
There we
We
right.
can go
That sounds
go.
fast.
good. That sounds good.
Yes, I love that so much. But Chris and Sarah has been such a joy having you guys on the podcast. For friends who are new here, where can they get connected with your work, but also like stay up to date with all your upcoming adventures in Europe?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, chrisandsarah.com is our website, but on YouTube, it's just Chris and Sarah, Sarah with no H.
Yes.
And then on Instagram, it's Chris and Sarah _ because some guy took Chris and Sarah. We can't get
Oh,
it from him. So,
so
He
but
probably
yeah,
knows me by
but
Instagram.
yeah.
Get it for us.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. And I'll link all of those things in the show notes. But man, I've been so encouraged by this conversation. And I think you guys, we'll maybe have another conversation sometime soon. You'll come back on the podcast. But
Oh,
Let's do
yeah,
it.
for
it's been so fun. And thank you, friends, for listening. Have a wonderful week and continue to carry the gentle love of Jesus wherever you go.